The Yankees split with the Mets. A two-game set at Yankee Stadium. The Mets win the first game, the Yankees win the second, and so on. The season between the Mets and the Yankees, it's a 2-2 tie, just as it was last year. Difference was last year, the Mets won both games at Citi Field, then the Yankees won both at Yankee Stadium. This year, a split at Citi Field in June, and then a split at Yankee Stadium here. Did I want to win both? I did, but a split it could have been worse. Definitely could have been worse. So, game one, bad outfield defense, specifically the corners, and Domingo Germán, his inconsistencies really continue. I mean, it's to the point where, look, when Nestor Cortez comes back in early August, it'll be interesting to see who gets taken out of the rotation, because Aaron Boone said it's going to be a 5-man rotation, not 6. So, could it be Germán? Maybe. That's possible. And then game 2, Carlos Rodón. I didn't think he was amazing, but 5 2/3 of 1-run ball, you'll take that every time. Of course, you want him to get deeper in future starts, but the bullpen was great. I mean, 10 batters, 10 outs. 10 up, 10 down between King, who got 1 out, and then Wandy Peralta the 7th, Tommy Kahnle the 8th, and Clay Holmes the 9th. So that was big, considering the bullpen has really been shaky lately. And then really in bigger news, I'm not, take it with somewhat of a grain of salt, but it does sound like Aaron Judge might be back as soon as Friday for the Baltimore Orioles series, which would be really big. So, and if he's not back Friday, barring any setbacks, he should be back soon. So, I don't know. I mean, this team in his absence, I think they were around 19-23. And with him back, will it help? Absolutely. But there's a lot of questions. The Yankees have definitely been exposed, I feel, offensively. Like, why would you even pitch Aaron Judge? You should pitch around him every single time. I mean, it doesn't always work that way, but you should if you're in opposition. And then, have they dug themselves too big a hole? That's possible too. Even though in the standings they're there. It's within their grasp, definitely. They are 8 games behind the Orioles for the division lead. And look, I think that is a total pipe dream. The only way that to me becomes even a possibility is if you sweep the Orioles this weekend in Baltimore. Then you're talking. But I do not see that happening. And then the other thing is this: how effective will Judge be upon return? Like, in a perfect world, he comes back just as he left, which was simply fantastic. I mean, he was on his way to really another unbelievably amazing season. So you hope that he has that ability to just reel it in right away. I don't know how simple that'll be. I mean, we know with Stanton, for example, it takes him a while to get going. With Judge, you hope it's not to that extreme, but look, for fans to just expect him to be the Judge that we've known, I don't know if that happens. But it's a good thing that he's coming back soon, and the timing's interesting. This is a big stretch coming up. A 10-game stretch, 3 at Baltimore, 3 home against Tampa, 4 home against the Astros. So these are all teams that you're fighting with to varying degrees. I mean, I think right now you're kind of looking more at the Blue Jays, the Red Sox even. Like, you're not really looking so much at the Orioles. But look, it's your last series with Baltimore. The Yankees have been okay versus Baltimore. They took 2 out of 3 at the Orioles in like the second series of the entire season. I think it was the first home series for the Orioles. And then the 7 games at the stadium after that, it was the Yankees lost 2 of 3 the first series. And then just a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago or so, they split a 4-game set at the stadium. So it's been pretty evenly matched. The Yankees can certainly play with the Orioles. We'll preview that series after we get through this 2-game set versus the Mets. But game 1, things were ugly. I'm trying to think if there's any transactions that were made. None that I recall. Just a thought in terms of Judge. Now forgetting about Willie Calhoun for a second, who, I'm not sure that works. Like, they might just kind of prolong that rehab because, like, there's kind of a bit of a logjam for roster spots. I'm sure the trade deadline will kind of clear things up, but taking those 2 things aside, Calhoun and the future and the trade deadline, if Judge is activated, I wonder who is sent down or who they get rid of. I have a hunch. I'm not saying I want this to happen, but it might be Peraza. It might just be Peraza. Now, the players that are in the mix to be sort of sent down, theoretically, Peraza, McKinney, Greg Allen, and I guess I'll mention Jake Bauers, even though I know it won't be him. He's certainly not like a mainstay. And I think when you look at all of them, barring anything crazy, like I said, crazy happening, it might just be Peraza. And what might happen is kind of Falefa might take on more of that infield role. But again, not saying I want it to be that way, but I just wonder if that might happen. Again, Peraza has options to be sent down. In this Orioles series, the Yankees will be facing 3 right-handed starters, so you might see your fair share of McKinney and Bauers, and I know that they like Greg Allen from a defensive standpoint, so I'm very interested in seeing how the roster looks in the coming days, but we'll deal with that when the time comes. For the first game, the Yankees cannot get to Justin Verlander, and I thought that his start at Citi Field was frustrating because I thought the Yankees put up some good at-bats, made him work, they worked the count against him, and they just unfortunately didn't have much to show for it. This one, yes, very early they kind of looked like they had a chance to do something, but ultimately, once Verlander was staked to a 4-0 lead, he pretty much cruised. And, again, I didn't think his command was all that great, but he gets the job done, and he has just been a thorn on the Yankees side for a while now. Really, since he's been with the Astros. I feel like in late in his Tiger career, the Yankees were getting to him, and then he resurrected his career, and with that, has really dominated the Yankees. Have there been some starts that I can think of with the Yankees Wilkinson? Yes, of course. They faced him a ton. So, you're going to get to him every now and then, but Verlander is starting to turn it around this season and did well, and he outpitched Domingo Germán flat out. And did Germán get 9 strikeouts? Yes. From a walk to strikeout standpoint, Germán's usually solid. It's just the home run kills Germán. He gives up way too many home runs. That has been his bugaboo in his MLB career. Just way too many home runs. And Pete Alonso was the story of Game 1. Pete Alonso, a couple of home runs. He had 5 RBIs. He was the producer for the New York Mets. And, that was it. So let's talk about what happened early. And what happened early was key. As far as the Yankee lineup goes, Jake Bauers in the leadoff spot. And we've seen that versus righties where Bauers has been leading off. And then Game 2, it was actually Isaiah Falefa who did pretty well. Look, is it ideal? Not at all for either of them, but that's kind of what it is. And so the players in the lineup were virtually the same except versus the righty. Naturally, you had Bauers and McKinney. And then versus the lefty, naturally, you had Falefa and Peraza. So the first game, before I mention the first game, please like and subscribe below. Would be greatly appreciated. We will be discussing plenty of Yankees through the next couple of months as we head towards the home stretch of this 2023 regular season. So it starts out with a Brandon Nimmo double in Game 1. And eventually, you get to a runner on third, 2-out situation, and Pete Alonso hits a fly ball off of Germán that looks like easy can of corn. Easy can of corn to left center field or so, and it dunks in front of McKinney and Bader. That just can't happen. That just cannot happen. And that to me speaks to a lack of just actual legit outfielders. And I know Billy McKinney's not atrocious, whereas Jake Bauers to me, that is an atrocious outfielder. Billy McKinney can hold his own to an extent, but they were played way too deep. And I think blame goes to both. I don't think it's fair to assign blame to one. I think Bader and McKinney both fucked up there, and that was demoralizing, where Germán should have gotten out of what looked to be a tough jam. Mets take a 1-0 lead right there. Then let's jump to... Well, in the second, I'll say DJ LeMahieu had I think he might have had 6 walks in these 2 games. He had 3 walks in Game 1. I think he had 3 walks in Game 2. So for DJ, it's been better just in terms of getting on base. The strikeout still exists for him. I think that so that's still there, which is definitely unfortunate. And for LeMahieu, even though we did see him home run Saturday, the home run pop is not really much of a thing for him. But it seems like in the second half of the season, it's just getting on base has been there, and that's half the battle, and so that's been good. But Harrison Bader grounds into double play. And I'll say, Bader was really bad in Game 1, and it had me thinking, wow, he has kind of, gone under the radar. He has not been good for a while. However, Game 2, he ends up going 3 for 4 with a couple of runs and really made a big impact. So hopefully, it ends up being a positive on Bader, whereas if he had a bad Game 2, I would have been talking about that more. but he really was good in the second game. In the third inning is when things really fall apart. And again, it's an outfield defensive thing. 2 out, no one on. Germán's starting to settle in. Lindor with a bloop double to left, and it drops in front of McKinney. That cannot happen. These are balls that should be caught. And you want to blame it on the outfielders? Yeah, that can happen. You want to blame it on the positioning? Yeah. All the way around. It's not just one thing. These are fly balls that need to be caught. And so the inning continues. McNeil walks, and Lindor steals third. First and third, 2 out. Germán gets ahead of Alonso 0-2. Now, mind you, you got to be careful to Alonso regardless of the situation, right? The Mets have the type of lineup where after Alonso, it kind of falls off a bit. And in this case, Vogelbach was batting after Alonso. He gets away with an 0-2 pitch initially. It was a curveball that was hit foul. And I'm thinking, Domingo, you just do not throw a strike. Don't even throw anything close to a strike. What does he do? It's a changeup that's right in Pete Alonso's wheelhouse. 3-run homer, and that's basically your ball game. That is your ball game right there. You can feel it. So 4-0 Mets. Alonso's 27th homer of the season, and that's the crowd is, the Yankee crowd is basically taken out of the game right there. Let's shift to let's go to the 6th. Germán's still on, and it's a lead. And to start the 6th, Alonso homers again. 28th homer of the season, second of the night, makes it 5-0 Mets, and then another homer. Back-to-back homers for the Mets. Vogelbach hits his 7th of the year, makes it 6-0. Germán would go 6 innings and give up 6 earned runs. Again, was it all fair? No, but at the end of the day, if Germán only gave up the Alonso 3rd homer, that would have been bad on its own, but all right, but then once he gets at those next 2 homers, it ends up being ugly. 3 homers against him. His ERA on the season sits at 4.77. That's just not good enough for Domingo Germán. Then we go to the 7th, and, Nick Ramirez comes on. Ramirez did a nice job. Again, this was mop-up duty. But Ramirez, it's a 2-out situation where the Yankees are sloppy again. It was actually a nice play by Volpe on a Lindor single. He dives, makes a nice play, but unfortunately, it's an error on Volpe because the ball goes past Rizzo. Now, he was going to be safe at first, but Rizzo really should have stopped it, and so it goes into the camera well, the dugout, so Lindor goes to second. What do you know? Next batter, Jeff McNeil RBI single, gives the Mets a 7-0 lead. Then Brooks Raley comes on. Raley, the lefty, replaces Verlander. And the Yankees get a bit of a rally going against sort of the middle of the Mets bullpen. Connor Falefa, as a pinch hitter, is hit by a pitch. Volpe doubles, and I thought Volpe had a nice couple of games here. Looked pretty good. Volpe with an RBI double makes it 7-1. Then Higashioka walks. And then Bowers, I don't know why they did not pinch hit Peraza for Bowers. Lefty, let's say they brought in the righty Leone. Or Leon. I never know if the E is silent or not. But I'd rather that matchup for Peraza than Bowers versus Raley. Bowers pops out. Bowers is not good versus lefties. So I don't know why that move wasn't made. I didn't really agree with that. And then Leon comes on for Raley, and then Glaber walks. Now it's a bases loaded, 1-out spot, 7-1 game for Stanton, and he crushes one to right. But DJ Stewart makes the catch. That sucked because, you had a chance there. But it's a sac fly, makes it 7-2. And then Anthony Rizzo, this was a bad series for Rizzo. So, the hope was that Rizzo, that last Royals game, okay, he's going to break out of it. Did not happen. And did he hit into some bad luck in these 2 games? Yeah, a little bit. But Anthony Rizzo, the stat that I love to repeat, he strikes out. And with that strikeout, he's now 0 for 28 with 15 strikeouts with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. It's a stat that needs to be talked about and isn't. It is not just the 0 for 28, the 15 strikeouts as well. It's all embarrassing. So we go to the 8th. Nick Ramirez pitches a scoreless 8th inning. And then in the bottom of the 8th, the Yankees, continue what they had in the 7th a little bit. Grant Hartwick comes on, the righty. Harrison Bader with a 1-out single. Connor Falefa singles. Volpe walk. Bases loaded, 1 out. And they pinch hit Rortvedt for Higashioka. This was an interesting move, too. I'm not saying I totally disagree with it, but you didn't, there was different directions you could have gone in. They go in the Rortvedt direction, and David Robertson comes on. So from a Met perspective, it's like, shit. The Mets had a 7-0 lead, and here comes David Robertson. So things kind of felt a little bit, got dicey for the Mets. But Robertson, who's their best reliever by far, gets Rortvedt to ground out. It's an RBI ground out. makes it 7-3, and then Bowers grounds out to Alonso. So, like, the game was kind of hanging in the balance at that point. If Rortvedt or Bowers did something there, we're talking about an interesting situation. It doesn't happen at 7-3. Ron Marinaccio comes out in the ninth, and for Marinaccio, we're getting to the point where him getting sent down is very much on the table. It's a one-out walk to Nimmo, and the walks are killing him, and then it is a single for Lindor, and Nimmo advances to third on an error by Bader. Then Lindor still second, and you get a 2-run double by Jeff McNeil off of Marinaccio, and that's it. Abreu comes in. So for Marinaccio, and it took him, 30 pitches for 4 batters. He's just been bad. Really, really bad. His ERA is now up to 4.33. The whip isn't good. Don't be surprised if Marinaccio gets sent down sooner than later. I can certainly see that maybe post-trade deadline. Albert Abreu comes on, and the only notable thing here, and he actually, he does an okay job, I guess. He strikes out Francisco Alvarez, but on the strikeout, he hits Alvarez in, looked at the hand wrist area, but Alvarez no worse for wear. He was taken out of this game, but he played in game 2. And then in the bottom of the ninth, Adam Ottavino, former Yankee, comes on, and he shuts the door, and the Mets win 9-3. Game 2 was better for the Yankees. And Carlos Rodón really, really needed this good outing. Badly. I mean, if this didn't work out well, I think Yankee fans were ready to pounce on him. After the situation against Anaheim, just the overall frustrations, the fact that he was hurt, and this was his 4th outing, and this was, it was either this or the Cub outing that was his best. I mean, I guess you could say this was his best. I still was not overly impressed with him, but still, it was a gutsy effort. He grinded through it in 5 2/3 1 run. Again, you will take that sort of outing every time. The 3 walks, 4 strikeouts ratio, don't love that at all, and he acknowledged that. So I think there's a lot of improvement that still needs to be done from Rodón, but in terms of anyone that was going to get mad at him, you got to back off that for now. And so Rodón gets his first win as a Yankee, and it was a much-needed one. And like I said, the bullpen did a fantastic job. 10 outs between King, Peralta, Canely, and Holmes, and a perfect 10 up, 10 down, too, which is nice. Like I said, Connor Falefa leads this one off, and did a pretty nice job. The Yankees in this series really bear runners in scoring position. They were a combined 1-for, in these 2 games, I think 1-for-17 or something, thereabouts. The only hit was an Anthony Volpe hit today, which was a big one. But yeah, unacceptable. But they were lucky to get the win thanks to good pitching in game 2. So the Yankees have a 1st and 3rd no-out spot in the 1st. Stanton strikes out. He had a little bit of bad luck where there was a fly ball to, right field that went just foul, and then he strikes out. Then Rizzo hits it hard, to be fair, but it's a double play, so that was disheartening. Then at the bottom of the 2nd, Yankees get another opportunity, and they do cash in here. A walk to LeMahieu, double Bader, walk Volpe, bases on no outs for Higashioka. Higashioka strikes out looking, so it starts that bad. I will say, on the 2-1 pitch, it was called a strike. That was so low. I don't know how that wasn't called the ball. Again, we need robot umps at some point. Just completely unacceptable. Changed the whole course of the inning and the at-bat. But luckily, the Yankees are able to scratch it out. As with 1 out, Peraza hits a ground ball to third, and he reaches on a fielder's choice. Vientos, the third baseman, tries to get Volpe out at second, but Volpe's safe. Volpe was a force, really, in this game in a lot of ways, using his speed. I felt like Volpe, this was just a pretty solid all-around game for him, which was good to see, because we know he's been up and down. But then Connor Falefa gets a sac fly, and it was a sliding catch by McNeil, who really looked pretty good out there in right field. We'll talk about McNeil again, but great base running by Harrison Bader and a great slide home. So it was a shallow play, but Bader heads up base running, beats the tag from Alvarez and scores and gives the Yankees a 2-0 lead. And then Glaber flies out to deep right. Glaber, McNeil makes the catch there. Then McNeil, I think, basically robbed Glaber later in the game of a home run too. So Glaber, he has a hitting streak now, I believe, up to 15 games, which is very impressive. Again, he's really been very, very consistent and just doing the right things, hitting the ball the other way, not striking out a whole lot. I like what I'm seeing from Glaber at the plate. And he was the DH in this game, by the way. But then the Mets do score a run in the 3rd. They come right back and they score. And it's a sac fly for Brandon Nimmo. But luckily, nothing else. And Alonso lined out to Connor Falefa and left on a 1st and 2nd 2-out situation. So, this could have been worse. But Rodón gets out of that. Then in the 4th, Rodón gets in a little bit of trouble there. but he gets Alvarez to ground into a double play with first and second, 1 out in the fourth. And then in the bottom of the fourth, the Mets' bad defense rears its ugly head. Harrison Bader, it's a single, and Vientos makes a throwing error, and Bader goes to second. Next batter, Volpe, opposite field single, and he actually advances to second on the throw by McNeil. So a big RBI single by, again, that combination of Bader and Volpe was, pretty good for the Yankees in this game. The Yankees, unfortunately, don't do anything, so they could have scored more there, but they don't. Although, to be fair, on the last batter, Connor Fluff hits a liner to right. McNeil makes a nice sort of shoestring catch. Then in the fifth, again, and it wasn't really all Rodon's fault. An error by Peraza. The second batter of the inning, Nimmo reaches on an error by Peraza. And again, for Peraza, it's been, you've seen some good defense. You've seen some not so good defense at times. Again, I haven't been, I guess, overly impressed with Peraza, but I still would want to give him a chance. I just don't know if they're going to be able to. Anyway, big situation, 3-1 game. Alonso's up with first and second, 2 out, and Rodón strikes him out. That was a huge, huge spot. Alonso strikes out. Then in the fifth, Glaber, I think that would have been a home run. McNeil robs Glaber of a home run, or close to. Then in the sixth, a 2-out single by Canna gets Rodón out of the game. Michael King comes on and gets Alvarez to pop out. Alvarez was the tying run at that point, so a nice job by King. And then we'll just discuss, and by the way, I don't even think I mentioned this. Jose Quintana started for the Mets in this one and kind of navigated through. Wasn't great, but, kind of kept the Mets in it. And then in the seventh, Wandy Peralta, 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts. Then in the eighth, Tommy Kahnle, 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout. And then Clay Holmes in the ninth. And Greg Allen comes in for defensive purposes for Stanton. He goes 1-2-3 with the strikeout as well. So a very dominant performance by the back end of that bullpen, and it was needed. So the Yankees are now 54-48. Things are still tough for the Yankees. And you look at the standings, and they have their work cut out for them, but we'll see what happens. So let's quickly talk about this Orioles series, the 3 matchups. So the Yankees made a little bit of a swap. As Cole is going to start the first game and Schmidt the second. So the way it had been going was Schmidt was before Cole. And I wonder the reasoning why. Could be a number of different reasons. But anyway, Cole starts out the series versus Grayson Rodriguez, highly touted Oriole pitcher who's coming off a really nice start versus the Rays. And he was called up recently. He had a rough start to the season, was really good in AAA, and now he's back up to the majors. So this, I believe, let me confirm this. I believe this is the first time the Yankees are seeing Grayson Rodriguez. It is. And that's always dicey. But with Cole on the mound and hopefully Judge's return, that should be an interesting one. And then Clark Schmidt versus Tyler Wells. The Yankees have seen a bunch of Wells over the last few years, including this season. And then Game 3 will be Sunday Night Baseball. Luis Severino against Dean Kramer. And so, a lot of familiar faces on both sides, and this will be the last series of the season between these two teams. So if the Yankees want to have any last-ditch efforts of catching the Orioles, they've got to do damage in this series. And that's going to be tough. Baltimore's a really good team. They're battling their own injuries right now. So this will be an interesting series. All eyes are potentially on Judge. Again, I don't want to make too big of a deal about this because, again, he might, I think he will be back on Friday, but not definitely as we speak. But again, big 10-game stretch coming up. 3 games at Baltimore, then back home for 7 against the Rays and the Astros. But the Yankees do split with the New York Mets. And, big times are ahead. Make or break stretch for the Yankees coming up as they head to Baltimore for a 3-game set. And hopefully, Aaron Judge makes his return.